What's going on, everybody? It is MLB Draft time. This is Breaking Bet. I'm Johnny VTV, live from a new location, my new home in South Florida. I have probably my favorite guest that I'm lucky enough to have on a couple times a year. He came on at the preseason to look at the college baseball 2025 campaign, and in the blink of an eye, it's gone. My guy Joe Doyle is here to join me for an MLB Draft preview. This is his specialty. There's nobody that does the MLB Draft better. He's locked into high school and college 24/7, 365. Joe Doyle, really appreciate it, brother. Thanks so much for joining me.
What's up, Johnny? Good to be back.
Yeah, this is it, man. Like, I love the college season, but the MLB Draft is, in more particular, MLB, because like we have drafts all the time for all the major sports, but this is probably the most nuanced, in my opinion, because what some people might not realize is it's not just the fact that you have to take somebody if you're a team that can help you win now and in the future, but there's a thing called slot value that plays such a big part in it, where a team might ultimately end up passing on somebody that's more talented because they're either younger, they elect to go to the high school guy, or they're cheaper, which is known as a designated slot value for each pick. So while we're looking at the MLB drafts, give us your thoughts of how you might expect this one to go, with this being such a high school heavy class.
Yeah, I do think that this is a pretty strong year on the high school shortstop side of things. I think, right now I've got 9 high school shortstops in my top 20 overall prospects for this class. And because it's a class that lacks a lot of college bats, a lot of close to the majors, offensive players, I think teams might take some more shots and just go after, the high school talent and be willing to wait another year or two than they would have otherwise. It's a pretty good year for college pitching, but as you know, college pitching dries up very, very quickly in the draft. So I think especially once we get into the, 12, 14, 15 to 25 range, that 15 to 25 range, I think you're going to see quite a few high school shortstops flying off the board.
Yeah, it's crazy because this draft reminds us a lot of what we saw in 2022, the college talent wasn't even close to the level it has been the last 2 years. Like Paul Skeens, Dolly, Chase Burns, Langford, Dylan Cruz, Cavs, like those kind of guys were coming off the board in 23 and 24. Whereas 22, we didn't really have that. We had some college studs like Kate Horton, Cooper Jerpy, but it was more geared towards the high school class. And while the 25 college crop is good, I think it's fair to say this is a little bit heavier in the high school range, because I don't know if we have like this generational superstar, at least at the moment, at the college level. Like we have guys that are really good. Like Kate Anderson has blossomed tremendously this year. Jamie Arnold is probably the closest thing to like the next generation pitcher, although I would probably think it's fair to say he's not like to the level Paul Skeens was. And the bats are good, but it's really headlined by Ava Arquette and Ike Irish as the 2 top college bats. And don't get me wrong, those guys are really good, but it's not to the level like a Wyatt Langford is. So with this being something that you feel is a little bit more high school heavy, how do you see these teams take those chances that you're talking about? Maybe opting for somebody like Willits or Carlson instead of taking a guy like an Ike Irish or an Ava Arquette. Like, do you think these teams taking more of a chance are willing to wait the 2 or 3 years that it might take to get them to the majors?
I mean, I think with every Major League Baseball draft, the exercise is walking away from the draft with the most bang for your buck. It's not really about the amount of picks you have or even where you pick in the draft, but rather it's, I have $16 million. How am I going to spend $16 million and walk away from this draft with the most talent, the most value, the most potential for big leaguers at the next level? And I think, you use Ike Irish as an example. I think Ike is a perfect example because he was the best hitter in the SEC this year. And if the strength of this draft is in high school pitching, high school shortstops, you could take Ike Irish in the top 10, save a little bit of money because, people don't think he's necessarily worthy of, a $7 million price tag, for example. So you take an Ike Irish in the top 10, maybe as high as the top 5, and you save a bunch of money with that pick. It affords you the ability to go land a high school shortstop that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to afford in the second round, or take a high school pitcher in the third round that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to afford. So I don't know if the guys at the top that you mentioned are as big an example of that, because like Eli Willits he's going to cost close to the full slot for
Mhm.
where he picked. Same with Ethan Holiday, same with those guys. But to your point, yeah, I mean, I think this is it is a bit of a down year for college bats. There's not a lot of guys in this class that I think are going to move quickly and have impact. Iva Arquette is probably the most exciting college bat in this class, and I'm a huge Iva Arquette fan, but you put him in the 2024 draft, and he's probably not a top 8 pick. So
Mhm.
it is a tricky year. I think teams are going to do as much as they can to position themselves to walk away from this draft with as much talent as possible and kind of spread the wealth.
So, like it is every year, and I think it's important for people to take this into account. It doesn't matter what draft you have, what sport, but in particular, the MLB draft steam is like it's basically unprecedented because there's so many different options you can go with. You can go with a college bat or a college arm or a high school bat or a high school arm. And there's always like these little rumors. You remember a couple years ago that there was real consideration that the Pirates were going to forego Paul Skeens 1-1 because they liked Max Clark or Walker Jenkins. And that was kind of picking up steam in the days leading to the draft. But as we know, it was all smokescreen. So it's important for people to realize that that stuff happens all the time. So something that I really always struggle with, and this is me personally, like this from just like our interactions. I'm not big on taking high school guys over proven college studs. That's just my personal thing. And listen, Ethan Holiday has a lot to offer. I mean, he's physically built more like his dad. I mean, his dad was one of my favorite players. He was on so many fantasy teams I had. And he's much bigger than his brother. He's got more power, I would say. But why are the Nationals looking at possibly taking Ethan Holiday? Not because he's not a great player or won't be a great player, but this team, their farm system and their current roster of infielders is loaded. They're set for the next 10 plus years. And not only that, but you're possibly passing on one of the top pitchers. And this is a team that is not really flushed with pitching talent. I mean, they don't have a legitimate ace right now. Mackenzie Gore is having a breakout year, and even if you think he's an ace, they don't really have much in the pitching department. So where are the Nationals leaning? Do you think they go Holiday or do you think they go Cade Anderson? Because right now it's really come down to those two guys.
Yeah, man, I genuinely don't know where they're leaning. I think they could go a number of different directions that aren't Cade Anderson and aren't Ethan Holiday. But I mean, the rationale for taking Ethan Holiday is pretty simple. I mean, if you grade out Ethan Holiday as the best player in this draft, the most valuable player in this draft, the most impactful player in this draft, if your organization looks at Ethan Holiday and says, this is the best chance for all-star level, potentially award-winning type level, production. If you view that, it doesn't really matter. Like the Seattle Mariners could have had Ken Griffey Jr. in 1997, and if the top player on the board was a center fielder, you're taking a center fielder. And maybe that means that they end up trading a CJ Abrams or they end up trading someone from around the diamond. But at the end of the day, and especially when you have the number 1 pick in the draft, I can't stress this enough. When you have the number 1 pick in the draft, you have to take the player that you believe is going to provide you the most value over the course of his control years. Because if you're being cheap, underslot deals aside, if you're being cheap with the number 1 pick, you're punting, the biggest opportunity to add talent your organization may ever see. So I do agree with you that the Nationals need more pitching depth. I would argue that Nationals haven't proven that they can develop pitching at a high efficient level yet, but they have developed some hitters. So it's a good question, man. I don't know if they're going to go Ethan. I don't know if they're going to go Cade. They could go Eli Willits. They've had him in for private workouts. They could go a number of different directions. But at the end of the day, I am comfortable and confident saying the Nationals are going to take the player that they believe is the best player on the board.
This is definitely a tough one because I did a preview on RotoWire. I dedicated a whole piece just for the number one pick where I broke down the four guys I believe have the best chance to go, which was Holiday, Kate Anderson. I threw Jamie Arnold in there because I personally feel like Jamie Arnold, as much as I love Kate Anderson, I feel like Jamie Arnold is the best pitcher in this class. And I think what happened, and we see this all the time, we see guys have career years before their draft eligibility. What Jamie Arnold did in 2024 was unbelievable. And, who knows where he would have went if he was draft eligible last year. And he had a down year, which it was still really good. Like he was still tops in the country, but like people kind of just forgot about him a little bit. And I hate to say it because based on what I've been reading, I feel like there is a chance that he could somehow slide closer to the back half of the top 10. And to me, that's mind-blowing. But Arnold, Anderson, Arquette, and Ethan Holiday, and I personally felt like Arquette had a shot here because he's the best college hitter in the class. He's going to play the same position as Ethan Holiday. He's got power to all fields, contact to all fields, great in the field, and he proved it at the college level. So those are the four guys that I previewed. And now kind of hearing the tea leaves, it's pretty much between Holiday and Anderson. Maybe there's a dark horse in Willits that is able to emerge here. But considering the pitching crop, like the top pitchers of the college class that we have here, how do you see that shaking out for this 2025 draft with Jamie Arnold, Kate Anderson, Kyson Witherspoon, Liam Doyle? Do you think that some of those guys can slide, or do you think most of them go in the top 5?
I don't know if most of them go in the top 5. I mean, I would have a hard time seeing like Cade Anderson is a lock to go in the top 2 or 3 picks. 3 is his floor without question.
Yeah.
The other guys, it's pretty binary when you get into scouting departments. Some teams love Liam Doyle. Some teams think he's Tanner Scott. Some teams love Jamie Arnold. Some teams think he could be Hobie Milner or JP Sears. Like the variance between like and love and dislike and red flags with some of these college pitchers, it just depends on who you ask. I mean, Kyson Witherspoon, I think, could go in the top 5. Kyson Witherspoon could fall, outside of the top 12. There is the variance in like the player demographic and the attachment to certain teams is fascinating here because, like I said, the high school shortstops is the most exciting part of this draft, I think. And the other piece of that is teams want bats. Like teams want to draft bats. They would prefer bats over, drafting a potential number 3 starter or a high number 4 starter. So if you can get a guy that can go out there and play 155 games a year up the middle and produce, you're going to take that player over a mid-rotation starter or a number 4 starter in most cases. So it's this balancing act between safety with the college pitching and exciting upside and the frustration of having to wait 3.5 years to see this high schooler, debut for your team. A lot of scouting departments don't have the luxury of, being able to say, oh, we're still going to be here 3.5, 4 years from now. General managers, we don't know if we're going to still have a job 3.5, 4 years from now when that player debuts. So to answer your original question, I guess a little bit more succinctly, I think Liam Doyle goes in the top, 6 picks. I think Jamie Arnold goes in the top 10 or 11 picks. He could go as high as 2. He could go as high as 1. Kyson Witherspoon could go, 5, 8, 11, 15, 13. He could go all over the place. So it's really kind of hard to stack up where these guys are going to go until Unfortunately, and this is the fun with the Major League Baseball draft, until you know who's going to go in front of your pick, it's hard to put the magnets on the board.
The thing that I've been seeing, this is like my personal opinion. 25 was the year of the overachievers for some of these college players. You have guys that really never did anything noteworthy until this year. Liam Doyle is one of those guys. I mean, he always had the strikeout stuff, but to me, he's very Ty Floyd-esque. He has a really good fastball, lefty that's running up to triple digits, but he's not really a fully polished pitcher, in my opinion. Like Frank Anderson and Tony V did a great job of bringing him along. I mean, this is a kid that just had an electric arm at Coastal a couple of years ago and then was okay at best last year at Ole Miss. And all of a sudden he turns around and he's, national pitcher of the year. I understand that for MLB teams.
Well, let me interrupt you on one thing, because I think it's an important distinction. Paul Skeens wasn't much at Air Force.
Right.
And then he went to LSU and he became the best pitcher on the face of the earth. So it happens. I mean, this is just the way that players develop. It's just the way that pitchers develop it. I mean, Kyson Witherspoon wasn't a dynamo last year, but this year he was a finalist or a semifinalist for the Golden Spikes Award. And I would also say, like, Wyatt Langford, he wasn't really all that big of a name as a freshman. Comes in second year, becomes arguably the top college hitter in the entire country. His draft eligible year, better than Dylan Cruz for a lot of people. So I don't know if it's as much overachieving as much as it is just the natural progression of player development and the way this thing works. I mean, you look at another example like Gavin Keelan last year in 2024. He had like a 32% chase rate. Like, he was expanding the zone at tenable levels. And this year he comes in, he cuts it in half, and he becomes, an anchor in the middle of the Tennessee lineup. So these kids change, they develop, they become what they should be, and sometimes that like linear progression is what you want to see. I look at it like this frame of work. If you were to crown a player after the 2022 draft and say this guy, based on the year he's having, is going to have a monstrous major league career, it would have been Chase Dolander, right? Getting those, hey, like, this is the best starting pitching prospect since Steven Strasburg. This dude is elite. He checks every box. He struggles a little bit, goes pro. It's Colorado, so it's not a one-to-one, but struggles a little bit still in Colorado, while Paul Skeens, might win the Cy Young Award. And he was, just linearly getting better. So I guess it's an eye of the beholder thing. If you look at Liam Doyle from the lens of this is the first year that he's ever really been truly dominant, I can understand that recency bias. But looking at Jamie Arnold, you can look at it from the standpoint of Jamie Arnold is trending in the wrong direction, and when guys trend in the wrong direction, who knows what you're going to get at the next level. So it is that kind of pendulum balancing act of how much of this is real, how much of this is fake, and how much of this is going to translate to the pro game.
It's definitely, I mean, that's why these teams make the big bucks to make these decisions, because it's definitely difficult. Like, separating what happened last year versus what happened this year. Is this for real? And while we're on the subject of Liam Doyle, like, this is a guy that I have trouble with, because I remember last year there was people that really didn't like Chase Burns, which I thought was asinine, because like, oh, he's got reliever risk. I mean, there's a lot of pitchers that have reliever risk, but like somebody with the type of ceiling that he has and just the stuff he has. And the crazy thing is, like, the year he had in Tennessee in 23 compared to the improvement he made last year under Corton Scarra in the Wake pitching lab. I mean, but we saw that as a freshman. And I think Liam Doyle's got at least twice the reliever risk that Burns allegedly does. Because here's the thing, like, Liam Doyle, in my opinion, I watched a lot of his starts. Aside from the fastball, I don't know if I would consider any of his other pitches plus. Like, his slider's okay, like, against college hitters, and obviously it plays up because of the fastball. But, there's still, for somebody that isn't as polished as, say, a Cade Anderson is or a Kyson Witherspoon is. And there's an actual possibility that he goes inside the top 3, all because he's a lefty that's hitting triple digits. It's something that, for me at least, and I like talking to you about this because like you have a lot of times different view. It seems crazy to me that Doyle could go ahead of Jamie Arnold and ahead of Kyson Witherspoon. Like, those guys are a lot more polished and have a lot better, at least in my opinion, of a chance to go on and be really good starters in the major league with consistency. Whereas Doyle, no question, in my opinion, out of the top 4 starters for colleges, I have the most questions about.
I mean, I think it's fair. I think it's a question that a lot of people are asking, and everyone seems to have a different viewpoint. But I would say the thing with Doyle that I think is noteworthy, I think a lot of people have question marks on his secondaries just because he was forced not to throw them. He didn't have to throw them. I mean, when you throw your fastball 70% of the time in the SEC, and you've got no reason to throw your other pitches because you're just bullying the opposition. Why change what's not broken, right? When you have that level of stuff, you have the luxury of just throwing the fastball. Now, I can say, with certainty that the split finger metrics are really, really good. It has a chance to be a plus pitch, but to your point, we didn't see it a ton this year. Now, if the split finger is plus, if the fastball continues to play up at the level that it is, and if he has the chance to develop a cutter and a slider that are more consistent, it's really not too dissimilar from Tarek Skubal. It's really not. Like, Tarek Skubal lives and dies on the fastball, holding velocity deep into his starts. He eliminates right-handed hitters with the changeup split, and it's cutter, slider at the back foot and running away from left-handed hitters that is good, but not elite. And I think if you have the dream of, okay, Liam Doyle could be Tarek Skubal, he could be Tanner Scott. I just think, as an analyst myself, as an evaluator, and as an amateur scout, I always with every hitter or every pitcher, I always build my profiles and my evals on fastball value, because for me, if you don't have fastball value at the big league level, the upward climb to being a great pitcher is so much steeper. So because of that, I have Liam. Let me look at my board. I have Liam as my second best, my second college pitcher in this class. I mean, narrowly behind Cade Anderson, but those two are number 3 and number 4 on my board.
So you have him above Arnold and Kyson then?
I do. I have Jamie Arnold actually quite a bit lower. I've got Jamie Arnold at number 7 in this class, and I've got Kyson at number 11 in this class.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, my rationale is specifically with Arnold. It's a strange delivery from a smaller framed guy. The fastball velocity took a small step back this year. The fastball performance took a step back this year. He lived and died on the slider, and the changeup has been, when he found it and commanded it, it was awesome. But if you were to give me odds between Arnold, Doyle, Witherspoon, and Cade Anderson, I would say Jamie Arnold from this chair, and this is just me. I personally think Jamie Arnold has the highest reliever risk out of that group of 4, personally. But again, teams are going to see it differently, and it's an eye of the beholder type sport.
Damn, dude, you kind of rocked my world here, saying Jamie Arnold's got the highest reliever risk. I love me some Jamie Arnold. I had him last year. I comped him. I was like, this is the next Chris Sale. Delivery, just the type of stuff that he has when he's on. I hope not. I mean, and we're talking about Liam Doyle here, right? The second pick is the Angels. And the Angels are also in this boat here where their young core is pretty good. And they got some guys in the minor leagues that haven't made it up yet, and they're going to be impact players. They can use both sides of the ball, but they're definitely in a much better shape offensively. Like they need arms. And the thing I worry about with them is if you end up going Doyle, and obviously we have differing opinions on this. I feel like that is something that could ultimately end up backfiring because he's not a safe pick. I mean, you look at somebody like Cade Anderson. Cade Anderson, right now, in my opinion, is probably the safest college pitcher to take in this class.
Yeah.
And now you're in a position here where you might go with arguably the riskiest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. I think the rationale with taking Liam Doyle at 2 is he's the quickest to the majors. It's the stuff that will play tomorrow. Like I liken it to when Garrett Crochet was the number. Shoot, I don't even remember when the White Sox took him, but I think it was 2020. Maybe it was 2021. But it was this stuff will work tomorrow in the big leagues. It's enormous. Garrett Crochet debuted for the White Sox the year that he was drafted. And I think Liam Doyle's in the same boat. This is an organization in the Angels that Artie Moreno has already said he's trying or has tried to sell the team. It's an organization whose general manager, their contract expires at the end of 2026. It's an organization that doesn't have many high-level pitching prospects that are close to the major leagues in their minor league system. So I honestly don't know if the Angels could go wrong with any of these college arms. I think Kyson makes sense. I mean, I've said this on my podcast. If I was the Angels, I would take Ike Irish personally. That would be my number 2 pick. I would take Ike Irish. I would pay him $6.75 million, save, $3.5 million with my number 1 pick. And I would go balls to the wall with high school talent with my 2nd, 3rd, and 4th pick and really rebuild that farm system that is very shallow. I think if you take Liam Doyle or you take Cade Anderson and you pay that player close to full freight at the number 2 pick, yes, you have a player that is close to the big leagues that could arrive sooner rather than later. But I don't think it addresses the real issue in Los Angeles, and that is there's just not enough quantity and quality in the minor leagues to build a sustainable winner as I look forward over the next 3, 4, 5 years. And I think this team needs to really go out and they need to acquire, 4 or 5 top 2 round quality players. And I think you can do that by landing the top hitter in the SEC at pick 2. That's what I would do.
Joe Doyle breaking ground here with saying he would take Ike Irish 2 overall. And I got to be honest, I think your reasoning is definitely sound. I mean, Ike Irish is a stud. It's unfortunate because the catcher thing didn't really work out, transitions into the outfield, and that's probably where he ends up settling, if not maybe at first base. But, I mean, that kid can hit.
It doesn't even really matter. Like he got moved out from behind the plate. It was more of a split time thing with Lucas Steele down there. But they had, Auburn had the luxury of having multiple like pro level defensive catchers. And so it was the ability to get Ike Irish off his feet. But, if you're the Angels, you have Logan O'Hoppe. So if you have O'Hoppe and you don't have to worry about potentially, developing Ike Irish as a catcher, you can put him in left field, in May of 2026. He can be playing at Angel Stadium in May, just like Shanuel did, just like Neto did, just like Simo has. Ike Irish can be quick to the majors, your new left fielder, building out a young, robust lineup like you talked about. And with that also comes 3 or 4 high-profile high school players that you can dream on for the future and continue to rebuild this the right way. I just, for me personally, I don't think Cade Anderson, with what he will cost at pick 2, and to a lesser extent, Liam Doyle, although I think you could save some money on Liam Doyle at 2. I don't think Cade Anderson with the number 2 pick solves the bigger problem for the Angels at 10,000 feet. And I think Ike Irish solves a lot of problems all at once.
I agree with you. That's kind of that's interesting you say that because I mean Ike Irish just flat out hits. I mean all field power. It's a beautiful swing, like high floor, high ceiling kind of player. Like definitely safe. Like what you're going to get. Like this is going to be a perennial all-star for the next decade. And I mean I think
the Angels better. And the Angels aren't out of it. I mean, they're technically in the wild card race right now. I think they're 4 games back as we sit here on Sunday. If you were to tell me Ike Irish is going to be playing for the Angels in left field, on August 15th, if they're still in this thing, wouldn't shock me at all. It wouldn't stun me. Now that assumes that they continue to win, but they're not out of it. And if they want reinforcements for this wild card run down the stretch, Cade Anderson's not going to help you this year. Liam Doyle might help you this year, but the only guys in this draft that I would feel comfortable putting out there and being sure that they can actually provide value right now with what their current skill set is without destroying them would be Liam Doyle and it would be Ike Irish. And I would also throw Jamie Arnold in there. But, with the amount of innings that Jamie Arnold has thrown the last 2 years, I would think that they would probably use him out of the bullpen down the stretch if they really wanted to deploy him.
What about Arquette? Would you put Arquette in that?
No, I wouldn't put Arquette in that. I think Arquette's got hit tool development, and I don't think we'll see Arquette in the big leagues until late 2026, maybe 2027. There's some boxes that I think Arquette needs to check in professional ball before I would unleash him to Major League Baseball.
Fair point. I mean, you definitely follow these guys as much as anybody. Let's go to your home state here. Seattle Mariners. They're always an interesting team to me because they primarily have geared heavy towards going high school and international. Like, this is a team that typically likes to go younger. They like to go underslot. But last year they shocked. My boy Jurangelo Sanja, 15 overall. They went after him and they got him, which it's not something that they normally do, drafting a college player, nonetheless college pitcher. And now Jurangelo is going to be he's going to be one of their future stars. And as we know, Seattle is always flushed with pitching.
Yeah.
So they're at 3 here. And I personally feel like they can go multiple ways. I mean, their offense is something that I think needs to be built out more. I mean, you got Big Dumper having one of the best seasons of a catcher has ever had. Julio, Randy Rosarina, but they need more bats in that lineup. So they're in an interesting position here. I personally felt like when I did this article a week or 2 ago, that Seattle would be an interesting situation where they could go with either Jamie Arnold, Kyson Witherspoon, or Arquette to get themselves another hitter. Where would you see Seattle going? And do you think maybe going back to their roots and getting a young kid at a high school, what's this kid's name?
JoJo Parker?
No.
Eli Willits?
No, the pitcher.
Seth Hernandez?
Yeah, the kid that was supposed to go to Vanderbilt. Do you think he's in play, or how do you think Seattle approaches this draft?
I mean, Scott Hunter, the Mariners scouting director, did a media spot on Thursday, July 3rd, and he pretty much echoed what I've heard from inside the industry for a while now. Seattle has no idea what they're doing. In that there are people in that organization. I'm not saying they don't know what they're doing. They just have so many differing opinions right now. There are folks in that organization that want Seth Hernandez. There are folks in that organization that want Cade Anderson. They don't think he'll be there. There are folks that believe Liam Doyle is the closest thing to a top of the rotation arm that you're going to find in this class, and he might be available at pick 3. There are folks in that organization who love Iva Arquette, and I guess maybe finally there are folks in that organization that believe JoJo Parker is the best hitter that is going to come out of the 2025 class. I genuinely, as we sit here today on Sunday, do not have a clue who the Mariners are going to take. I think they're hoping that Cade Anderson falls to them at number 3, but I think there's genuinely 5 or 6 players on the board that still track for what this team is looking to acquire.
It's a good problem to have for them. I mean, they're gonna pretty
much
have most.
I'm sure. I mean, Scott said it as much. He wished that it was easier. He wished that it was like 2023, where hey, there's clearly a top 5 here. We're going to take the best guy that's still around after Skeens and Cruz. Or you look at the 2024 draft. There was clearly a top 8 players in that class. I'm sure Seattle wishes that they were in a circumstance where we're going to take who we deem to be the best player in that tier. I think this year's a little bit more difficult to find where the tier drops off because everyone
Yeah.
is evaluating these players a little bit differently.
Yeah, this is a tough year for a draft because you're trying to separate what could be versus what is, what will
Sure.
be. So we have a few more minutes here. I want to talk a little bit more about the middle of the first round here. So we have a lot of guys that are interesting trajectory, like our boy Jay Slavalette. It was Jay Slavalette, Jamie Arnold, Ethan Holiday as the guys that were pretty much being talked about preseason to
Yeah.
be the number one picks. Lavalette has a down year along with A&M. Now, he also exposed himself a little bit more with some holes in his game. Like the holes weren't talked about as much coming into the year, but he's clearly a power over hit, problem against lefties, big time swing and miss stuff, but he's an athletic freak who has as much power as anybody in the country. How far do you think Lavalette falls?
So I think he has a chance to go to a number of different model driven organizations, teams that view the the selective approach and the tools and the up the middle traits. I look at the Brewers, I look at the Cubs, I look at the Orioles. I don't personally think Laviolette fits inside of the top 15 at this stage. Personally, I haven't heard his name attached much inside of the top 15, but once you clear, whoever 15, like the Red Sox at 15, I think those teams that make sense start to line up: Cubs, Brewers, Orioles, teams like that.
What about Wahiba Aloy?
Same thing. Quite a bit of swing and miss, but a lot of defensive value, a lot of power. I think he fits right in that exact same bucket. He's obviously going to provide value with the glove. He's going to provide value with the power. Is he going to hit enough to be a potential all-star level player? I think that's where the questions lie. So Cubs, Brewers, Twins, Orioles, like these are the teams that I would circle.
Now, I have two more here, so we'll try and
Yeah.
bang these out. Got to talk about Gage Wood. Before his no-hitter, and I asked you this when it happened because I tweeted at you and you responded. I said, before the no-hitter, where did you have Gage Wood? Your answer was 25 to 40. And then after the no-hitter, you have him inside the top 20. Have those feelings changed? Do you think Gage Wood is going to be a teens pick, or is he going to fall into the 20s? Where do you see Gage Wood going?
I can't attach him anywhere specifically, but there are teams that certainly line up with what he has liked in the past. It's the Cubs, it's the Brewers, it's I would put the Red Sox in there. It's there's a number of different places that I think he could land, and because of the big stuff and depending on how the medicals check out, I think Gage Wood is going to go pretty good, especially if the medicals check out well. That's kind of the if the shoulder is okay, maybe he goes past pick 20. If the shoulder shows no signs of concern or deterioration, he could go anywhere between 10 and 20.
We saw Trey Savage inexplicably fall last year to the 20s because of the partially collapsed lung. At least that's what I think. One more before I let you go. Your 5 biggest risers who have gained steam at the college level.
At the college level, all right, let me just go down my board and see who's continued to rise here. Gage Wood would certainly be on that list. I think Marcus Phillips at Tennessee is a guy whose athletic testing and performance all season pushes him potentially into the top 30 to 35 picks. I think Caden Bodine at Coastal Carolina was a guy that performed really well on the biggest stage in front of a lot of important people. The best defensive catcher in this class, arguably. I think he could go in the 20 to 35 range. I've got him at 33, but that's just because I don't know if there's enough power personally for me. Brandon Compton at the combine. He has a chance to go. Yeah, he has a chance to go in the top 40 picks just because it might be the most raw power in the class. And then one more riser here. I would throw. Let me see here. I'll throw a deep cut at you. Colin Yeaman is the shortstop at UC Irvine. Yeah, I think he has a chance to go in the top 2 rounds. He hits the ball hard consistently. He can run. He can field. It's a pro-ready body. I think he's got some love inside of the top 75 picks.
One more. Yeah. Anthony Ianson. I've been talking about him for a few months as somebody that I believe would have a Cade Horton-esque jump. He had a great year, and he only got better in the second half of the season. Anthony Ionson's name hasn't picked up as much steam as I thought it might.
Yeah.
Do you think he goes inside the top 25?
Personally, no. I have him at 58 on my board. The only
Wow.
reason that I have Anthony Ianson where I do is because he had like a 16% whiff rate on the fastball.
Hmm.
And despite having velocity, guys just seem to see it out of the hand. They seem to foul it off a lot. And I think when you throw that level of fastball uncertainty into Major League Baseball, you just question how professional hitters are going to see it and hit it. So terrific breaking ball, 2 terrific breaking balls, a ton of secondaries, a good loose delivery. I think he's probably going to go quite a bit higher than where I have him at 58. I think he's probably more of a fit in the 42 to 48 range. But yeah, for me, I just have questions on the fastball value, and because of that, around 60 for me.
Interesting. I hope he goes higher. I love me some Anthony Ianson. Athletic. He's a killer.
I interviewed him. He's a great kid.
He's a killer, dude. He's got it. I'm like, as an athlete, like you have it. Anthony Ianson has it. Like big moment, he's there. Joe Doyle in the big moment, you are always there as well. I can't tell you how much I enjoy doing this with you. I really appreciate your time and your expertise as always, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and talk a little MLB draft with me.
You got it, man. Be good. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day.